Oh, fuck's sake.
Yeah, it's going to spin again for
No,
another.
you're live.
Oh, I am live.
I'm pretty too close. Don't you?
Hello, everybody. I hope you're all keeping safe and well out there. This is my second reading for the holding cell, and after that, I'm done, I think. But thank you to Simon and Roz for setting this up. I'm going to read a story which seems to be a strange choice because it's set at Christmas time and it's set in Cork City. But it's one of my more light-hearted short stories. I didn't think I would read something that's too dark. And it's Christmas time, the pubs are open, Brown Thomas is open, the schools are just about to close for the Christmas holidays. So I hope it will remind you that these things won't last forever, and hopefully we'll be back in the shops and the pubs and everywhere else before too long, and maybe we'll be a bit more sensible than we used to be, but let's hope we'll get through this. Anyway, it's called The Wolf Note.
No. You can't start reading.
I can't start reading yet,
No.
apparently. Oh, I still have to witter on for 2 minutes.
It's only me looking at you
Well,
at the moment. So
I'm alone here in the kitchen except for Andrew, and I've realised it's not 5 o'clock yet. So I better not start yet. Sorry,
No.
but thank you for your help there.
You're welcome.
Anyway, in this story, I hope that nobody is as stupid as my character Eddie, and maybe we won't be quite so foolish with our time and money and nonsense by the time this pandemic is over, because Eddie isn't actually a terribly impressive character, I have to say. And it's taken again from my first and only so far short story collection, Waiting for the Bullet by Dura Press. And we're hoping to publish another short story collection in 2021. But I'm sure that, like many things, it's going to be quite difficult to catch up after these weeks of self-isolation and everything else. But we're going to touch wood, this is the table, and hope for the best. Yeah, it's all very, very worrying. And my brother Mike, who is the proprietor of the Friary Bar, where myself and Danielle McLaughlin run fiction at the Friary, had yet another birthday when we couldn't throw him a birthday party. So again, happy birthday, Mike. I'm really sad about that, and that your bar is closed at the moment. But we're hoping to be back there again, and also to run fiction at the Friary again once a month, as soon as things get better and we can all see each other again. And a shout out to my mum again, who's still at home recuperating after being in hospital, and thankfully tested negative for the virus. And I'm so sorry for everyone who's in this situation, everyone who's worrying and stressed about their relatives and friends. So I hope you enjoy this story. The Wolf Note. Eddie is sitting at his desk shooting pheasants on his new iPhone. He lines up each virtual pheasant in the crosshairs on the screen, and every time he shoots one, the phone reverberates satisfyingly. He's almost surpassed his personal best when the phone rings and he loses concentration. It rings again. He sighs and answers the call. What is it, Eileen? I'm a bit busy this morning. The Santa has let us down, says his wife. You'll have to do it. No way. We're really stuck. Come on, you never do anything for the kids. Look, I do things. I'm trying. Oh, you're trying all right, she says. You're very trying. Look, the PTA has put a lot of work into the kids' party, and we've got to have a Santa. You're it. Who says I'm it? I do. You're not that busy. Get the costume from Rita and give yourself a couple of hours off. It's your own company after all. Eddie hurries from his office through the cold air of the street, and by the time he enters Brown Thomas on Patrick Street, he's sweating. Inside the store, coloured spotlights illuminate the faces of dazed shoppers and fake tanned sales staff, while piped music plays The Little Drummer Boy. Ba-dum-ba-bum-bum. He finds Rita, the yummy mummy, at the beauty counter on the ground floor. Rita is luscious-lipped and gorgeous, but ever since her husband's Toyota dealership went bankrupt, there's an edge to her, an unhappiness that makes her even more desirable. Eddie wonders when the constant lust in his head began. I'm here for the costume, he says. Great, Rita smiles tensely. Can you cover for a few minutes? She asks her colleague. Then she grabs a plastic bag and says to Eddie, Follow me. Eddie admires her bum as he follows her up 2 flights of escalators. In the men's department, she hands him the bag. The changing rooms are over there, she says. Eddie goes into a changing room and takes off his coat. His small paunch depresses him, but at least his skin rash has cleared up. The Udo's oil that Eileen made him take for months has worked, and even the skin on his elbows is silky smooth. He puts the Santa suit on over his clothes, then the hat and a pair of round Santa glasses. He looks at himself in the full-length mirror and feels like killing Eileen. The Santa outfit is meant for a bigger man. It sags everywhere, even when he puts on the black plastic belt, and he has to roll up the trouser legs. His brown shoes don't go with the rest of the outfit. The beard is itchy and uncomfortable, so he pushes it down until it hangs round his neck like an odd, fluffy necktie. Morosely, he leaves the changing room and trudges towards the escalator, carrying his coat in the plastic bag. As Eddie descends the escalator dressed as Santa, he's devastated to see smart-ass bachelor about town Garvin Grady coming up the adjacent elevator towards him. Garvin is 40 and footloose. He goes to the gym and the swimming pool and the tanning shop and on holidays where he has one-night stands with girls who wear bikinis and sarongs during the day and absolutely nothing at night and give oral sex and every other kind of sex imaginable and never want commitment. Apparently he's been dating a 19-year-old recently. Garvin wouldn't be seen dead in his stupid Santa outfit. Eddie looks in the opposite direction as the escalator he stands on moves slowly downwards. Garvin continues to ascend. He's wearing a brown suede jacket with a striped scarf around his neck. Eddie draws in his stomach, grabs his dangling Santa beard and hurriedly pushes it up onto his face. Act normal, he tells himself. Act like a regular Santa. He can't resist a sideways glance at Garvin as he passes, and seconds later his cover is blown. Eddie! It's you, Eddie! You madman! What's with the Santa Claus gear? Garvin's looking back. He's almost at the top of the escalator. Now he's there. He's turned around at the top. He's bounding down Eddie's escalator, and within seconds he's standing next to Eddie on the ground floor. Ah, Garvin, I didn't see you there. You're up to no good, I betcha. I wish, says Eddie. No, I'm doing a kid's party over at the school. No way, marvels Garvin. I thought you were going to an office party. Not that you need a disguise to get you in the festive mood, huh? He nudges Eddie playfully. Well, says Eddie, are you going to the gig tonight? What gig? Did you not get the email? Says Garvin. All the lads will be there. I didn't. Look, I have to go. I'm late. Boys' night out. You must come. I can't, says Eddie. Eileen has her book club tonight. Come on. I have a spare ticket. Meet me for a drink at 5. We'll head into the show at 7. Fuck it, thinks Eddie. It's the least I deserve. Okay, I'll be there. Rain drizzles weakly as Eddie walks out of the school gates. Never again, he thinks to himself. Not in a million years. The children had been noisy and rude. One junior infant had cried when he said ho 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 and a Merry Christmas. Two others had yanked his beard. His younger son in senior infants had merely looked confused. His daughter took no notice of Santa at all. She was busy chatting to her friend. After all, she was 10 and had probably met at least a dozen Santas by now. His older son Fergus had stated loudly, in a manner that reminded Eddie of his wife, that he wanted a wee for Christmas. Eddie had had the presence of mind to say, ho, 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 very funny, only to hear Fergus say, even louder, it's not Santa, it's my dad, while a teacher said, shush, weakly. What kind of teachers were they these days? Fuck all discipline. All the children were spoiled rotten, and the carol singing they did for Santa was, frankly, diabolical. Eddie trudges back to the department store to divest himself of his costume. How was it? Rita asks. Dire. He's not in the mood for small talk and he's starving. He decides to go for a late lunch. Eddie sits by himself in the Farmgate restaurant in front of a generous bowl of Irish stew. It's so good he orders apple tart with custard and a cup of coffee. This is the kind of life he deserves. In a fit of bravado, he takes out his phone and texts his wife. Dear Eileen, Santa mission accomplished. Did you know Fergus wants wee for Xmas? Going out to gig with lads tonight. See you when I see you. Cheers, Eddie. As he takes another bite of apple tart, the phone buzzes. Out of the question. My book club tonight. I need you home 6 p.m. sharp. What do you mean Fergus wants a wee? He sighs, imagines Eileen's fury if he doesn't do the necessary. He thinks about nights out with the lads when he was young, before the kids, back when Eileen was still nice to him. He remembers his earlier humiliation, drinks the last of his coffee. It's pathetic. I can't even suggest a night out with the lads without getting a bollocking, he fumes while he waits to pay his bill. Fuck it, he says out loud. He hands the alarmed waiter a 20, says keep the change and leaves. Outside he taps another text to his wife. No can do. He presses send quickly. His phone buzzes angrily a few minutes later. What do you mean no can do? He texts again. I'm out tonight with the lads. Forgot to mention it. Sorry, see you tomorrow. The phone buzzes again. He turns it off. Eddie feels like an outlaw. As far as he's concerned, he's now gone over to the dark side. In an incredibly short space of time, he purchases a new shirt, jeans, and a fine dark green suede jacket in a shop on Oliver Plunkett Street. Then he buys a travel kit from Boots, which contains a mini shaving kit, a mini toothbrush and toothpaste, plus various other mini necessities. He takes an old rug from the boot of his car, goes back to his office, unplugs his desk phone, turns off his iPhone, and sleeps for 2 hours on the floor. When he wakes, he uses everything in his travel kit and hums, Have yourself a merry little Christmas, while he shaves and dresses. On his way out, the receptionist calls from the glass-bound desk in the foyer. Your wife called the main desk, Eddie. Tell her I'm gone, said Eddie. Garvin's already sitting at the bar when Eddie strides in at 5 p.m. Fair play, you made it, says Garvin. What's the show anyway? Where's the lads? Well, says Garvin, I'm not entirely sure who's coming. Jim can't make it because his wife's away. Martin has a client meeting at 6, so he'll meet us later. Frank's coming, I think, and maybe Richie. Ben will definitely be here. After 3 pints, Eddie's astounded that he ever considered Garvin a pain in the neck. As the pub gets busy, Garvin tries to chat up a woman sitting on the next bar stool, but she's more interested in talking to Eddie. Did anyone text you? Says Garvin, disgruntled, when the woman leaves them to join her friends. I don't know. I turned my phone off. Ben arrives out of breath. I made it, he says. I thought I'd never get away. Eddie buys the next round and goes to the gents. In the toilet, he turns on his phone and finds there are 2 messages. The first is long and indignant. You selfish prick. Nothing was discussed about you going out tonight. What kind of a way is this to behave? The second is sorrowful. You don't even want to speak to me. It's very hurtful. I know things not perfect, but you could at least reply to my text. Shamed, he texts back. Sorry, missed texts. Had to turn phone off during show. Will make it up to you. Speak later. He returns to the bar and shows Ben and Garvin his new phone. I'm going to get one of those, said Garvin enviously. Eddie finds out to his delight how to change the ringtone to a cheerful snippet of Blame It on the Boogie. He plays it until Ben says, turn it off, you're annoying people. So he does. Eddie, Garvin and Ben settle into their numbered seats. What's the name of the band? Asks Eddie. Shh, says Garvin, as a group of people in semi-formal clothes walk onto a stage filled with keyboards and brass instruments and guitars and music stands. Is this jazz? Hisses Eddie. I thought it was a normal gig. A dapper man with a goatee beard wearing a suit and 2-tone shoes walks to the front of the stage and says, Now we begin. Eddie sits back and watches. The cellist is wearing a black dress and high-heeled leopard skin shoes, and Eddie can't concentrate on the music. He's too busy imagining her in leopard skin underwear and black lace stockings and suspenders, with her legs wrapped around the cello while she plays it just for him. At the end of the show, Garvin chats to the cellist. When he returns, he announces, Okay, lads, we're meeting the band in the pub. In the corner house pub, Garvin confides, That doll on the cello? I've met her before, and tonight is her lucky night. I happen to know she's gagging for it. Oh, Jesus, says Ben. Not again. Do you know what we call him, Eddie? The fog. Why? You know the way 1 minute the sky is clear and next thing, before you know it, the fog is on top of you. Garvin's like that with women. So, how are you going to chat her up? Asks Eddie. I've done research, says Garvin confidently, on the wolf note. The wolf note, says Eddie. What's that? Oh, this'll get her going all right. Listen. Garvin explains that most cellos have a problem note called the wolf note, one pitch that sounds annoyingly different from all the others. Depending on the instrument, it can even have audible beats to it and sound rather like a sick cow. It's a result of the instability between the vibration of the body of the cello and the vibration of the affected string, which then cancel each other out. The cello has to be adjusted, he says. The sound post at that point must be tightened or made longer. Unfortunately, there is no permanent solution. It's a case of constant adjustment. Garvin sounds like he's learned this off by heart. Strangely enough, he says, the better the instrument, the worse the wolf note can be. You want to maximize the sound of the instrument, apparently, he adds, but minimize the wolf. The band arrive in the pub. Eddie finds himself sitting beside the delectable cellist, and he begins to talk about the wolf note. I wonder if I'm right in thinking, he says. He astounds himself by how knowledgeable he sounds. The cellist, whose name is Clodagh, is happy to discuss the wolf note, and they give the matter a thorough hearing. Eddie notices Garvin glaring, but he ignores him. He buys more drink for himself and the cellist, and at some stage in the proceedings, he finds himself outside the pub, pressing Clodagh against the back wall, his mouth glued to hers as if he were having his first ever shift, age 19, outside Spider's nightclub. Let's go home, she says. Eddie feels a bit unsteady on his feet, so he holds Clodagh's hand tightly as she leads him towards Wellington Road. Here we are, she says, stopping before a tall building. She has trouble handling her keys, but eventually she succeeds in opening the heavy front door. Eddie follows her up 2 flights of stairs and waits, slightly out of breath, while she unlocks the door of her apartment. Gotta go to the Jacks, she giggles, and leaves Eddie standing in a room that seems to be a sitting room, kitchen, and diner all at once. The table is cluttered with plates and glasses. Saucepans sit in the sink. Here's the toilet flush. Then Clodagh returns. Come on, big boy, she says, and brings him into the bedroom. Collages of clothes are strewn across the bed. She sweeps them onto the floor, then turns off the light and throws herself into bed. In the dark, Eddie takes off his new green suede jacket and his shoes and joins her. She's naked already, so he takes off the rest of his clothes under the quilt until he's just wearing his underpants. They roll around in the bed and kiss until she's moaning loudly and he's raring to go. Have you got a condom? She whispers. No, says Eddie. Shit. She switches on the bedside lamp and rolls onto her stomach. As she fumbles in the drawer of the bedside cabinet, Eddie notices the dimpled skin on the back of her thighs and feels himself wilt. I've run out, she said. Shit, party's over. You're probably fucking married anyway. Yeah, says Eddie apologetically, glancing at his wedding ring. Clodagh begins to cry. Ah, no, says Eddie. Now. He looks at her for a moment, then gathers her up and strokes her drunkenly while she weeps. Soon his hand is on her vulva, pressing it rhythmically as she moves against it. Expertly, he kneads her with his fingers until she comes. Shortly afterwards, she falls asleep. Eddie rises from the bed and gathers his clothing furtively. Clodagh mumbles something unintelligible in her sleep, and he stands still for a moment and stares at her. There's something about the way she's curled up in the quilt. A memory rises in his sore head, a long ago image of his wife Eileen, at home in exhausted slumber, only a day or so after the birth of their firstborn son. He remembers watching over mother and child in prideful fear, picking the baby up when he cried, the first confusing nappy change, the smell of the greenish black meconium in the tiny diaper. He remembers wondering how something that was shit could smell so sweet. Bundling his clothing under one arm and holding his shoes in the other hand, he leaves the bedroom stealthily. In the bathroom, he dresses hastily, then urinates, washes his hands, and splashes water on his face. There's a tube of toothpaste on a grimy glass shelf near the sink, so he puts some on an index finger and rubs it around his gums, then spits it out forcefully, splattering saliva and toothpaste all over the bathroom mirror. He grabs some toilet paper and tries to wipe the mirror clean, but it's already smudged with some kind of makeup cream, or maybe it's mouthwash, and the toilet paper only makes it worse. What on earth am I doing? He wonders. I never do this at home. He wipes the surface frantically with a grimy face towel, but the mirror's a streaky mess, so he gives up and leaves. Downstairs, as Eddie pulls the heavy front door closed behind him, the cold air of the street shocks him into near sobriety. Standing under a weak yellow streetlight, he checks the time on his watch. It's 6 a.m. He shivers while he searches in the pockets of his costly suede jacket. Eventually, he locates his phone and switches it on. there are no new messages. So thank you for listening, and I hope you all keep safe and well. And thanks.